Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Joeseph, and I'll be doing the introduction slide. And colonialism is a historical and political concept that refers to the establishment, expansion, and maintenance of the colonies by one country in a foreign territory. These colonies are typically governed and controlled by the colonial power, often located in a different continent, with the intent of exploiting the economic and strategic resources of the colonized region. Colonialism has played a significant role in shaping the modern world, and its impact continues to be felt in various ways today. What is colonialism, and what are its effects? Number one, cultural and social changes. Many indigenous cultures and traditions were distributed or alerted by colonial rule. Language, region, and social norms could change due to the influence of the colonizers, leading to the cultural shifts and, in some cases, cultural loss, and in some cases, cultural losses. Number two, political instability. The political legacies of colonialism have contributed to have instability in some post-colonial countries. The imposition of article borders and governing structures can lead to ethnic and political conflicts. Number three, nationalism and independent movements. The experience of colonialism fueled nationalist movements in many colonized regions. These movements sound independent and self-determined, leading to decolonization and the emergence of the new nation states. Number four, economic dependency. Some former colonies continue to face economic dependency on former colonial powers. This can result from trade relationships, foreign debt, or the domination of the globe economic institutions by former colonial powers. And lastly, global power shifts. The legacy of colonialism has shaped global power dynamics, and it has contributed to the rise of colonial powers and their dominance in the global politics, as well as eventual emergence of new power centers.
Colonialism doesn't just happen in the Americas, it just happens everywhere and anytime. So here is a timeline of many cases of many places being colonized by others. So in 1492, Christopher Columbus and the Spanish arrive on the Caribbean islands, natives subject to abuse and the gold mines. With 50 men, we could subjugate them and make them do whatever we want. In the 16th and 17th century, Spanish occupation of the Western America, mission systems populated California. These mission systems are not only a place of worship by the Christians and Catholics, and they were also incarceration areas where natives lived for most of the time. In 1895 to 1945, Japan's imperial acquisitions of China, Korea, the Philippines, French Indochina, and other places in Asia, they were looking for new resources to use for Japan, so they got all these countries and colonized them to their own benefit. Some notable tragedies that happened during Japan's imperial rule were the rape of Nanjing in Nanjing, China, and the comfort women that were gathered. In 1898, Puerto Rico, Guam, Philippines, and Hawaii become U.S. territories after the Spanish-American War. Hawaii becomes a state in 1959. How colonialism of the past affects us today. I feel as a Filipino, I should be very much aware of how much the Philippines was colonized throughout their history by multiple countries, not just one. The Spanish created this new cultural identity for the country. When I went there, I see these churches and dresses with elements taken from Spanish architecture and clothing. As mesmerizing as they are, native Filipino culture can have that same power, and I'd like to see more of that authenticity. America, while having intentions to help the Philippines from the Spanish, ended up having to adapt and comply with the new quota. I admire so much of Japanese culture, but I can't ignore the country's faults, as their treatment to the Philippine women as comfort women. No country is perfect, and is valid for being held accountable for their actions. On the right, you see a cartoon, a little racist cartoon of America governing the Philippines. We have this Spanish Philippine inspired church. And here are some two historical sites that you could visit in the Philippines around World War II and such. So here is the Bahay Napula, the Red House in Bulacan. This house is famous for housing a lot of Philippine comfort women. And on the right, we have the Old Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City. They say this place is to be haunted by the ghosts of the victims.
As a Palestinian, the Israel-Palestine conflict has historical roots that tie into colonialism. The conflict emerged in the 20th century when Jewish immigrants supported by Zionist movements began to settling in Palestine, which was under the Ottoman and later British rule. The immigration and land acquisition by the Jewish settlers can be seen as a form of settler colonialism, where an external group establishes a new society on Indian land. The conflict has evolved over the years, involving the issues of the land, borders, refugees, security, and self-determination. It remains a complex and sensitive issue rooted in the historical colonial colonial legacies and has not been fully resolved to this day. Protests in support of Palestine have been held worldwide to raise awareness about the Israel-Palestine conflict and to advocate for various issues related to Palestinian rights and statehood. These protests often focus on concerns such as the Israel occupation of the Palestine terrorism, human rights violations, the state of Jerusalem, and the right of Palestinian refugees. Protesters may express their standings with Palestine through various means, including peaceful demonstrations, rallies, marches, social media campaigns, and boycott movements. The nature of these protests can vary widely from the local grassroots actions uh, to larger international movements. And this is how colonialism affected me as a Palestinian.
Hi, my name is Hansely, and today I will be discussing how colonialism of the past affects us today. As a Latino from Central America, especially from Nicaragua, colonialism had a huge impact culturally, politically, and religiously and socially. 69% of the population is a mixed race. There is almost no trace of the native tribes because they were mostly killed by the Spaniards. After they arrived, the Spaniards forced these tribes to convert to Christianity. Those who didn't were murdered. The Spaniards built churches where once the temples of those tribes stood. It is important to mention that Nicaragua was not only colonized by the Spanish, but also the British and the United States through puppet states. Because of colonialism, the country was left in poverty, civil unrest, high unemployment rates, and poor education system. All this can be seen in the country currently, with the current dictator that is in power.
Hello everyone, my name is Lupita, and for my part of the presentation, I will be talking about my cultural ties with colonialism. Now, while growing up in a primarily Hispanic household, I learned a lot about colonialism, specifically from my family members who are Mexican, and how it has affected them and our ancestors. Spain and the Spanish Inquisition were constantly mentioned. It starts with the robust implementation of religious beliefs, specifically Catholicism, and the severe consequences of not believing in one single religion. That is something that my ancestors, who had initially only believed in the four elements, had to face. The colonialism that also happened in Mexico created power dynamics within communities. As stated in one of the lectures, indigenous communities from Mexico practiced communal land ownership, and they had to give up their properties, which were taken away as well, to create private sections, which is now known as private land. Even till this day, many power dynamics are still faced in Mexico that stem from Spain's colonization, which is having lifelong effects to many Mexicans now.
How can countries address colonialism? There are many ways that a country can address colonialism. One of them is addressing and giving formal apology to those countries. Spain pays reparations to colonies for all the gold that was stolen. Currently, they do. Also, Britain can return all these stolen objects that holds in the British Museum to those countries and pay a formal apology for stealing them.
Now, for the conclusion, I think it's important to take note that colonialism has taken a big toll on many countries around the world and has left lifelong lasting effects on many generations then, now, and to come as well. A couple of questions that arose while doing research was what would have happened if the new laws of the Indies that was implemented in 1542 had been implemented sooner? This law that was meant to abolish Indian slavery and did result in the liberation of thousands of indigenous workers. How would their life would have looked then and now? Would specific countries in Latin America be different if the Spanish colonizers didn't ignore the new laws, then beat or killed people who tried to implement these new laws to protect? And a general question is how different would the world be, the world that we've come to know now, if colonialism hadn't taken place? These are just a couple of questions that I had thought of while doing research for this project, and also questions that arose for certain group members as well. Now, with that being said, thank you for listening and watching our presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.